What's up, everybody? How's it going today? Jim Prusak, physical therapist on the Pain PT, and we're going to continue here today talking about where you should put your focus. All right, we've talked about this before, but we're going to go a little bit more in detail about putting your focus on the stress and not on the symptoms. Okay, so we want to learn to put our focus on the stress, not the symptoms, because the symptoms are just the output from a stressed out brain. Okay, so the symptoms are the output, and the cause in most chronic conditions, health ailments, is a stressed out brain. Okay, a stress response in your brain and nervous system. So that's where we want to put our energy in terms of our focus to getting better. The symptoms will take care of themselves and actually go away once you turn down the stress response in your brain. So I'm going to talk to you today about 5 things that cause and sustain a stress response in your brain and then subsequently can continue to produce these symptoms in the body. Okay, so the first thing is the symptoms themselves. Okay, for some people, their pain may have started out as an acute injury or started out gradually, but then over time, it never went away. Okay, so it continued, it persisted. And the longer it's gone on, the more people get worried about that, concerned about that, upset, stressed about that. And it's that stress about the symptoms that can partly or wholly sustain them, keep them going. Okay, so as you know from some of my other videos, you understand and hopefully can continue to understand that there's nothing wrong. There's not a physical injury. This is not an acute injury or subacute injury. This is a chronic, persistent problem, which is way different. Okay, so just understanding that this is a stress response from your brain and not a physical injury can help reduce or turn down the volume of the stress reaction in your brain, which then causes people to feel better. And that's how people have gotten better reading Dr. Sarno's books or his consultations. Okay, so the second thing that creates or continues a stress response in your brain is anxiety, worry, concern. Okay, if you're a type of person who is like a worrywart or is anxious or gets concerned about a lot of things, that's going to keep the stress response on in your brain and give you a greater chance of having persistent pain or chronic symptoms. We know this from the research. So your target is going to be on the anxiety, on the worry, on the concern, and learning to reduce those things. Okay, not the pain, not the symptoms. Go to the stress. So the second one is anxiety, worry, concern. You want to learn to reduce that in your brain. Okay, the third thing that can become a stressor in the brain are just daily stressors in your life. Okay, this could be family, it could be a spouse, it could be children, it could be work, it could be school, it could be home, it could be a certain relationship, a place, anything and everything. It could be little things that add up, it could be big things that are happening. And so when we look at our daily life stressors, we want to see if we can change or modify any of these things, especially if they're unhealthy and they're not normal or good. Can we change or modify these things? If we can't, or they're actually okay, it's just that we're not handling them well, then we can learn to accept them. We can learn to accept these stresses a little bit better so it doesn't spiral off this response in our brain. Okay, so getting a handle on these daily life stressors can be important to calm the stressed out brain down, and which calms down your symptoms. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, and this is Dr. Sarno's work, is your emotions. So if you're a type of person who has a tendency to repress or suppress feelings and emotions, then you're going to need to look at that. Okay, sometimes we have current things happening, current events that we haven't dealt with, with feelings and emotions. And we can go all the way back to childhood or past events that might have been traumas or things that have created emotions that we haven't felt or dealt with. So we want to learn to work with our feelings and emotions and feel them in the body, express them either through journaling or through working with somebody like a practitioner like myself or somebody else where you learn how to feel emotions and learn how to express them, because that keeps the brain in a stressed out state. It keeps the emotional brain turned on when you don't feel and acknowledge your feelings and emotions. And that causes pain, as we know from Dr. Sarno's work. So that's number 4. Number 5, the last thing we'll mention today that keeps the brain in a stressed out state could be your personality characteristics. Could be things such as perfectionism, people pleasing, goodism, being self critical, hard on yourself, conscientious, ambitious, hardworking. These are great traits. A lot of times they serve a good purpose for us, but what they don't do is calm the brain down. They put pressure on ourselves, which increases, again, that stress response in the brain, which then can create and sustain pain and other chronic symptoms in the body. So you may have to look at how you're dealing with things day to day in relation to your personality characteristics and start to make some changes there so that you can calm that brain down. Okay, so these are 5 categories or 5 things that you can look at in your life that maybe are creating stress in your brain. Okay, so this is where you want to put your focus. Do not go towards the symptoms. The only time you want to deal with the symptoms is with the somatic tracking work, where you're learning to interpret them differently so they're not dangerous anymore. And that causes a reduction in the fear response in the brain. So that's very helpful. But outside of that, move towards the psychological, like Dr. Sarno said, and towards what things are creating stress in your brain and start to deal with those. And as you do, I think you're going to find your physical symptoms are going to start to fade and drop off, because that's how this thing works. You reduce your stress response in the brain, you typically reduce the pain. Reach out for questions, concerns, consultation. I'm here for any kind of help you might need, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.